The U.S. is a maritime nation. It is critical that our sea services, U.S. Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and U.S. Flag Merchant Marine have the support they need to preserve our nation's security. The Navy League is the only military service organization where you have the power as a civilian to make a significant difference in the lives of these service members and their families. Whether at one of our local council events, at our Sea Air Space Exposition, or through our Sea Power magazine, the Navy League provides one independent voice for the entire maritime community through education and collaboration. Join us in our mission. Visit www.navyleague.org today and see how you can start serving those that serve others.
Good morning, and welcome to the Navy League of the United States' first ever Active Duty Service Spouses webinar series. My name is Julia Simpson, Director of Military Outreach for the Navy League of the United States. Our organization not only supports our sea service men and women, but also their spouses. Our Service Spouse series aims to do just that by providing sea service member spouses with resources, education, and exclusive events that can help guide you through the challenges and opportunities of living as an active duty spouse. We are thrilled that you have joined us for this amazing spouse-led, created, and moderated event. Please welcome me in joining our moderator for this event, Mrs. Michelle Norman. Michelle is spouse to the CO of the USS John C. Stennis, mother of two amazing children, founder of the group Partners in Promise, the 2019 AFI Navy Spouse of the Year, 2020 Heroes at Home Spouse of the Year, and a Navy League member. Absolutely amazing, Michelle. Thank you for joining us and moderating this discussion.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for inviting me here today, Julia. This is such a treat, and I am so excited for this conversation we're going to have today. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Mrs. Linda Gilday.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Thank you.
So good to see you. I am, let me tell a little bit about you for our listeners today. You are the wife of our nation's Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Gilday. Mrs. Gilday is an Atlanta, Georgia native and has been a military spouse for over 26 years and is the mother to two young men. Mrs. Gilday has lived in various places over the course of her husband's Navy career, to include both the East and West Coast, but equally impressive is that she's continued to maintain and grow her profession as an engineering and program management executive, to include working in the private, nonprofit, and military sectors as a civilian. At times, she's had to pivot, including teaching science and history at a private K-12 school, as well as teaching program management at the University of California, San Diego. The Gildays returned to the DC area about 5 years ago, and Mrs. Gilday became a program management executive with the Office of the Assistant Secretary of the Navy, Energy, Installations, and Environment. Admiral Mike Gilday became the 32nd Chief of Naval Operations in August of 2019. So thank you for meeting with us today, Mrs. Gilday, and I'm so excited to talk about your Navy journey and share your experiences, your lessons learned, and any words of wisdoms you might have for our families.
Well, thank you for having me. What an honor this is. And I want to congratulate you on all of your achievements as well. I should be interviewing you.
Well, this is great. Well, maybe we can do some back and forth throughout. So I want to also thank our viewers today. Wow, we are thrilled with the overwhelming response of registrations that we had for our very first webinar. And just as a reminder, we will have a Q&A at the end of this session. We received a lot of questions, so hopefully we can get in as many as we can. But let me switch back to you, Mrs. Gilday. When I was reading your bio, I admit I was a little fangirling. I am also an engineer, and I know how hard it must have been to balance both the professional career, the family life, and then the various roles you have had in our Navy community. I believe our listeners today will enjoy hearing your story and hopefully take away some tips and tricks on how to make the most of this military adventure. So that being said, would you please share with us how you met your husband and what your military adventure has looked like up to this point?
So again, thank you for having me, and I look forward to this conversation. We met in graduate school, actually. So I had already been out in the workplace for a good decade or so, a little bit more than a decade, and decided to go back to graduate school. And he happened to be in the same program. He had taken some time off, and so we met in economics class.
That is awesome.
We went to a James Taylor concert, and the rest is history.
That is fantastic. And so that was in New England, right? Where you guys met?
It was up in New England. Yep, in Boston.
How soon after that did you get married and then move from that point?
Well, so we dated for about forever, maybe almost 3 years, and then it took him forever to make a decision. Actually, I decided.
I can relate.
But anyway, yeah. So we after Boston, we both moved back to the Fairfax, Virginia, Washington D.C. area, and kind of settled back into our own worlds and lives, and then we were married in 1995.
That is fantastic. It's a lovely journey. So we have today a mix of military spouses listening. We have some that are just newly married and just starting to learn about the Navy life. And then we have those who we would consider salty, you know, that been around a long time, many deployments under their belt. Exactly. So thinking back, what did you do that helped you, I guess, be involved in your husband's career and establishing yourself and your role, if any, in the Navy?
Well, I can't say I've been super involved. We were married at a later age than the traditional age of getting married in your early 20s, I suppose, like most people do. So we were married when we were both in our mid 30s, and so I came in at a different time in his career, and I mean, I so enjoyed meeting his friends and the friends' spouses and just getting to know people and just sort of trying to learn from them on what their roles were. And then, of course, the moves started not long after we were married. And then, you know, you're picking up and sort of learning things from your neighbors and friends wherever you move to. And just picking up ideas from people. So one thing I would say about this whole role of a Navy spouse is there's no job description. There's no like, give me the 10 bullets of what I should do. And so you kind of have to just do what you think is best. Use your own intuition, learn from people that have been there before in the whatever group you're moving in and replacing whoever you're replacing, and do your best. Be friendly, be open. Just enjoy your time learning people and getting to know people, but there's no set description. I mean, I know for the position you have now that you have, it's different, and certainly right now with COVID it's different. We all have to adjust to how we're you know, getting along and entertaining and going to things. It's all different now with COVID, so you have to adjust like we do as spouses, and as military members, we all have to adjust and do your best, and just in my opinion, take care of your spouse and family. That's the #1 priority. So
Agreed.
Yeah.
Things have changed, I would say too. because I think now we are seeing a larger population of military spouses working. They have careers now. And so this is something that's unique to the way the evolution of the military spouse over time, and really what are they expected to do, and how to support their spouse at the same time. I think that we just have to look at it in a different pair of glasses now, that things are just not the way it used to be. Now, I remember as a very young JO spouse being in Japan and losing my sense of self in a way, because I had a great job in California, I moved, and then nothing. And would go to these spouse club meetings, which were fantastic, but I didn't really fit in. Most of them had children. I was, trying to figure out where I was, what role I was supposed to play. And I was fortunate to be able to get a job on base eventually. But for a while there, I was struggling. So I think it's just a matter of finding your tribe as well, through this military, adventure, and finding your support system. And like you said, making friends, building that community, and also just finding out that balance too. So I know that you love to travel, and you recently toured the USOs in Europe, to include Rhoda and Naples. And you're also an avid photographer, so I'm sure that was really exciting to have those opportunities. Living overseas as a military spouse, like I just said, is just another layer of complexity for us seeking employment and continuing a career. What did you learn from your conversations with those military spouses during your tour?
Well, the main thing I learned was the creativity out there with spouses who are just doing amazing things to adjust to this time of COVID. They might have children at home and they can't do what they used to, or they might have just moved there and they're not yet plugged into whatever their career dream is. A lot of people are doing some creative volunteering. The tenacity of the one woman that I talked to that I just still am amazed with, she said she goes to every new assignment she goes to, the day she gets there, she shows up and tells the different offices at the Fleet and Family Center and the different places that she's there. The day she gets there with her stroller, she walks in and she just starts making connections. I couldn't believe it. The amount of volunteering that is happening right now, not only for people who want to work and who don't, is just amazing. Certainly you do a lot with what you're doing, and so the amount of volunteering as a path to not only being fulfilled right then, but also to keeping your resume going is something that really inspired me. And so that's one thing. The SOFA agreements are very challenging to be able to keep your employment going. I learned that. Childcare is extremely important, and I know you're potentially going to bring that up as a topic too, but maybe we'll do that now. I know childcare is a very vital component to being able to do work, either whether you're doing it right from your own house or whether you're going outside. Just having some assistance to help with children is a really important component that enables spouses to be able to do some work that requires their undivided attention, whether it's in the home or away. So I know that that's an important thing, and in certain places it's covered and certain not, and so I know that that's an important thing. I think that's it.
Absolutely. I think that is a barrier for a lot of our families, particularly if you're working remote, which I'm assuming that a lot of those spouses overseas are trying to do if they can. I know that the Navy has looked into different options as far as, creatively looking out of the box of, doing more in-home providers, possibly to help out with some of those childcare issues, and looking at buildings that are empty on different bases on how to fill those in. But that certainly is, and COVID, of course, amplified the issues that we've had with childcare. So I'm hopeful that we're going to get to more solutions for that for our military spouses, because it'd be a shame that would be a barrier for them to continue their career, trying to just find that balance a little bit. So I'm glad you're able to listen. And the SOFA agreements, though, I am curious about that, because I know my husband was in Italy for a while, And that was a huge deal as far as not being able to work locally. And maybe it's a little different in Japan, but I know there's some talks about that, and hopefully there's some solutions for that as well, because it really does limit what you can do overseas.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So in terms of the child care facility options, so in the office that I work in now, in the Secretariat, that's where some of the discussions are being had. So I'm fortunate to be able to sit in and hear some of the things going on. And I would say that it's different communities have different challenges. And so we know that. So it's a big country and a big world, and it is hard to put a broad brush solution on the whole thing. I'm almost thinking that there needs to be sort of more of a groundswell of people in certain areas that have the needs, that speak up and say, all right, in this particular city or geographic area, there's really an issue. I know Kitsap just got approval for a new CDC out in their area. I know there are a lot of different solutions, like you say, like going to, I'm not going to name any names, but outside organizations and saying, can you take over the child care force? That might work in one area, but maybe not in another. So it's a tough issue, especially when the dollars are being competed for other, defense-related things rather than the family things. It's hard to balance that. What I would say is I encourage listeners who might have issues in your particular area to get a hold of me. I mean, there's other people to reach out to, but if you start letting me know where the real pain spots are, I can do more on a local level to help, and I'm committed to doing that.
That would be wonderful. I know that's we've received a lot of questions about childcare, so thank you for championing that a little bit, because I think you know from just personal experience how hard that is when you've had to balance your family life and your professional career.
Yeah, I couldn't have worked without it. So it just would not have been an option. I mean, you just can't. So luckily I had the option of having private childcare and also in certain areas CDCs, and both are important. The cost of it is important, and where it is, so you don't have to spend an hour driving back and forth, is important. So and then being able to get on the waiting list is important too. So those are all important aspects of it. For me, I also wanted cameras in the room so I could see what was going on. But
I love that. Well, thank you. I think this is going to be a conversation we're going to have to continue for sure, just based on the amount of interest on it. And as we were talking about the COVID, and how that has amplified childcare issues, also it is something we're seeing affecting our education as well. So many different states and so many different school districts within that state are delivering education much differently. It's not the same where everyone lives. And it's highlighted, I believe, two things. One, how resilient, our military kids are. And I know you've spoken about that before in the past, as far as, how they are able to bloom where they're planted and just, go with the whatever the situation might be, because that's just what military kids do. But I think it also, shows the struggles as well as just the access, particularly for those who have a family member who's deployed, or even our EFMP, children, that learning remotely just doesn't always work for everyone. Have you seen those struggles as well from the families that you were talking to during your touring around the United States?
Yes, and it's such a challenge right now for kids who, they need personal interaction. They need people. That's part of their growth. It's not all book learning. And so it's really a challenge for all kids today. And the other part of the challenge is not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow or even next week, because the school districts are changing and each of them has different different things going on with the waves or not of where the virus is going. I do think the light's at the end of the tunnel, though. I really do, with all the vaccines coming up, and we can sort of look forward to a time when we are all more connected from a personal standpoint. It's really hard on the kids for sure, and harder, I would think, even on the parents that are at home trying to, be the in-home teachers and sit on their kids to, do their work and sit in front of a machine for 6 hours or 8 hours or whatever it is. It's a real challenge.
Yeah,
So
it is. I mean, lots of coffee. I think a lot of our families are drinking a lot of coffee, and just, what I love about our community though is we have go-getters. One thing about military spouses, we're smart, we're resilient, resourceful, but we're passionate, right? We are very passionate about, making sure that we uplift our military community and make a difference. And when we work together, we can amplify those voices as military spouses. And so that's why I love, the organizations like Naval Services Family Lines, and of course I'm going to go ahead and plug mine a little bit, Partners in Promise. They're all military spouse-led organizations that are helping military spouses and their families, particularly in education, just making sure that folks have the resources that they need to get through these times that were unforeseen, such as COVID, and making sure we're advocating, for our families. So kudos for those military spouses out there that see, challenges and coming and together and really, coming up with solutions. Because when we do that, sometimes the data and the stories, the solutions can be legislation, it could be reform, and just helping, our kids, that don't have their own voices, that we have to speak up for them. So speaking of advocacy, go ahead.
I was just going to add one adjective to what you said, which is adaptable. I've noticed that the amount of adaptable people and organizations out there just astounds me. How they're just able to switch to, okay, we can't have this in person, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to, get together on a smaller group. Everybody's going to wear masks, and we're going to stay separate. And, just the adaptability is amazing out there. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's definitely our forte as military spouses and families, and our kids learn that from us as well. So I know that, I can't imagine. Let's see, we've moved how many times with our children? And it's just amazing to see how they really, it takes a while, that they love that routine and scheduling. But like you said, it's just amazing to see how we can, adapt to the situation that we're in. And I agree with you. I think we are in a temporary place, but it's going to get a lot better with the vaccine out for COVID. And I think that we can try to get back to whatever normal is nowadays. So I wanted to talk about the letter you wrote to the Navy community recently, because it kind of flows into what we're talking about, and it really resonated with me by shining a light on mental health and the resiliency of our community, which is a big priority for me and my husband's command and many other commands as well. Could you share with us a little bit about the message that was in that letter and where families can go for help?
Sure. So we were in Puget Sound at the shipyard, and we had the opportunity to meet with an embedded counselor. Believe it or not, there's such a term. So it's somebody who is actually there at the shipyard to help workers with, just things that they're going through during this COVID time, and probably even after COVID. And she talked about just being aware of things and just really connecting more with people. And she had a bunch of resources that she said that are out there. So I asked for a copy, and then I thought, well, let's see what all there is. So anyway, I just compiled the list of resources, but I also shared my own little thought about how to stay positive, how to see that glass half full. And I just put some of the things I do. Not that I'm any expert on it all, but I mean, the main thing to know is that, like, we all go through challenges in our life, whether it be, you name it, whether it's something medical or something financial or marriage related, or, I mean, it could be any number of challenges, or all of those put together. They're unique to us. But right now, COVID is not unique to anybody. We all have it. And so we're all going through ways of adapting. And so, I don't know, I just put together a list that was ways that I've seen and heard about and even done about how to see the bright side and try to know that you're not alone, and you should not suffer without knowing that, your very next door neighbor is going through the same thing. And even if you think you don't have anything in common with them, or with, the person you deal with from day to day, the checkout lady at the store or whatever, that we're all going through it, and we should not keep it to ourselves. We should speak up work through our challenges, find a confidential person that you can talk to, whether it's a friend or somebody on the professional side. There's so many out there. And so what I tried to do is to put together a list of who some of those resources are that you can talk to. And there, obviously, everybody knows there's a lot of telehealth going on right now. And I think we should not be afraid to use those resources and use our doctors if you've got, further medical issues that need to be, discovered and treated. So, yeah, I just think COVID has brought out a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of ways of adapting, and we should not be afraid to get help because it's out there. That's it.
Absolutely. And I think that you hit on something that was super important, is that what a blessing for telehealth to have come out of COVID. It has definitely increased the accessibility to getting that mental health care. And I'm a big fan, of checking in with someone every 6 months just to get a mental health checkup, just to make sure that, especially as an EFMP family, that you have someone to go to keep yourself healthy and to be able to take care of your children because you are in a good place. And I think, it's okay to not be okay. I think that we're just sometimes too proud or don't want to admit that we can't handle it all, but it's all right if you can't. And just to find those safe people that you can share that with and go check in with someone professional. That's a great thing about having TRICARE is it's available, it's free. There's a lot of other resources that you pointed out in that letter that, that offer, an hour consult. Why not? Why not have someone just kind of take a look at where you are in life and see if you need any adjustments or tweaks here and there, to know that you're sane and you're doing the very best that you can. So I think, again, it's just, we try to take on the world as military spouses and families, and it's a lot to bear sometimes. So just saying it's okay to not be okay is such a relief. So I love that you put that letter out to our families. It's something that we're sharing. And then just having all those resources available all in one place is going to be really great.
Well, the other thing I do want to address, because it's always, to be perfectly honest, it's always been an issue for me, is that, where's this going to appear on your record? If you reach out to somebody and you have a tough issue that is a hard mental health one. So I know that stigma is out there, but I also know we talk to a lot of families who, are able to share individual issues with us. And I would say, I hate to speak for Mike, but I would say he would much rather that somebody, deal with a challenging situation, whether it's a physical health issue or a mental health issue, go through that door and deal with the issue rather than let it fester to a point that you're at a point of no return. So I say, please get help. It's very much expected. We get our nails done, our hair, our whatever, so we need to get our head too.
Absolutely. Yes, I just did the hair yesterday, but I agree. I think it's that stigma, right? As far as, I don't want anyone to know I'm doing this. And I think if the more we can speak out about it, we've seen even with the EFMP program, I'm like, honey, you need to talk about this. It's okay. There's a lot of benefits. It's not going to hurt the career. We need to the more they see senior leaders be able to speak up about it, that's okay. They're just like us. I think you're going to see more folks, trying to get that help. So I appreciate the unified voice in that, as far as it's all right. Please take care of yourself holistically, because that's what we need to be mission ready. Military readiness and retention. We need the whole person, the whole sailor, the whole family to be well. And that means, we're all family. So I think that's really important too. Oh my goodness, we're getting a lot of questions here. I wanted to bring up a couple things before we get to these questions though. First, I know this past year we've had a lot of firsts for underrepresented communities and women service members, including my friend B12, who's Amy Bauerschmidt, being the first woman selected to command a carrier. I read that you have a display in your home that focuses on women pioneers. So I would love to hear more about what inspired you to create this display in your home.
Well, hopefully it's not going to be just a display, because to be honest, nobody's even coming over right now because of COVID. Hopefully it's going to get out electronically a little bit more in the future. Rachel's helping with that. So anyway, to be perfectly honest, I do work in the Pentagon, and I wish I could take you right out in this hallway right now. This is not my office, by the way. I'm just sitting in a office to do this, but I wish my office was this nice. But anyway,
yeah.
walking up and down the hallways here in the Pentagon, I mean, football fields long. There is not a single diverse photo out there. They are all very historical, very, you know, people that have grown the Navy up, but there's not a single, not one woman in there, or as far as a person of color. So, I mean, I've walked these halls for the 6 years I've been here, and I thought, well, I can't maybe do anything about those pictures, but I can put them in my own home. So I just thought it would be a nice way to recognize some of the women who are more recent, maybe, that have come along, that are amazing, amazing leaders in the Navy, and honor them, but also be a way to sort of inspire a new generation of women who might want to be serving in some role in the Navy. So it's kind of a twofold reason for doing it, and so that's the purpose. And so we have the first 50, and we're going to start coming out with more and more, and then I hope it grows like yeast. It just, you know, expands to include everybody, including yourself, Michelle. We should have you in.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. And, you know, I would love to see this electronically. I know that you have an Instagram account. We need to start seeing some of these photos and the displays, because, you know, this is a great time for change. I love seeing all the accomplishments that the Navy is leading the way in so many ways. And it's just a fantastic opportunity to shine a spotlight on them. So I love that. And you're right. I think that starting there is good, but you know, let's look big. You know, maybe it is time to have a hallway, or in the Pentagon. We'll plant a seed on that, you know, to really highlight, because really that's all about diversity, inclusion, equity. Those are all big things that we need to kind of, you know, focus on. So I love that you're taking the initiative on that.
Thanks. So,
Great.
you know, just like I said on the spouse role, like you talked a little bit about the role of the spouse. And, you know, while I said I don't think there's like a job description or anything, we all learn from each other, whether it be in the spouse role or in the working role of the military member or civilians. So we all look to who's walked that path ahead of you. So part of that display is to help not only the ones in high school and, you know, even younger than that, sort of have something to aspire to, but there are a lot of young women that are really new to the Navy, 5-10 years, that want to see somebody in leadership. So they want to know, oh, there's somebody in my community. Oh, I didn't even know about them. And so it's just a way to sort of get the word out.
I love it. Absolutely love it. I mean, when, you know, you've seen a lot of inspiring stories of children who, you know, recently saw a female vice president get, you know, involved with a new administration. How amazing is that? So when you see them, that's a great way to, like, this can be me, you know, in many years. Mm-hmm. So, okay, wow, we've got a lot of questions. So if you don't mind, I think I am going to ask a few for folks that are calling in and sending in. The first one is from Kelly in Lemoore. Love Lemoore, California. Do you have any suggestions for Navy wives that have stayed home to raise a family due to a deployment cycle, or duty stations that have made it hard for the spouse to maintain employment? After being out of the workforce for over 20 years, how do you jump back in the workforce after sidelining your career and education? I think a lot of people can relate to that, being out of work for so long, and then you have this huge gap in your resume. You know, how do you jump back in after taking that time off to be with your family?
So I would say for all parents, not just moms, but dads too, who might have done that, your job as a parent can be, well, it is your most important job in your life, in my view, but you can work with people who know how to craft your experience as a parent into things that are professional. And the one thing I really learned when I was over in Bahrain recently was the amazing help by the Fleet and Family Services Center, who can help you write resumes. And apparently they really just not only do they know the formats that it needs to go in, but they are just experts at doing that. So I want to put a plug to them. I would say go to them, sit down and talk about the different things that you've done. And sure, it's not just, you know, cooking eggs and rice every day. It's, you know, you got out and did a whole bunch more things. And so they know how to put that into professional language. Don't feel bad that that's all you've done, because you've done more. And by the way, parenting is hard work. It's kind of like the hardest thing you can do in my view also. So don't feel bad. There's a lot of people out there, and there's a lot of resources. My next letter is going to be on spouse employment. In fact, it's already ready. We just haven't put it in fancy format for everybody. I've got a whole bunch of resources on that. But there are a lot of organizations, a lot that can help you get scholarships, get internships, even if you're not, you know, 22 years old, to get back into the workforce. And so don't give up the ship. Your work has been very important. Don't feel like you've been out and you can't do anything now. Of course you can. You can do a lot. And so just go out and get an expert. I would say first stop Fleet and Family Services. Make an appointment with them and see what they can do. And if that office is not particularly helpful, you can find others in my little resource list. We'll get that. I will see about getting that out this week to everybody.
That would be great. And I will plug also the Fleet and Family Service Center, because that's where I went when I was looking to maybe jump back into the workforce instead of kind of pivoted and went to the nonprofit world. But they were really good at looking at everything you've done, like, okay, case management, because you've taken care of a medically complex child. All right, case manager, you know, they were able to come up with the words that I didn't quite have. And so just having a good hour with that person, just to kind of listen to what you've done, you know, for the past 20 years, and they were able to translate it into many bullet points. And so kudos for that program. It really has helped a lot of spouses. So I love that. Okay, we have a question. Goodness, we have so many. Okay, a question from Lauren. What is your philosophy for balancing your family needs, desires with the needs, desires of Admiral Gilday's career? Missed sporting events, missed celebrations, etc.
Well, I think, yeah, life's a balance, whether it's, you know, whether you're a military spouse or not, we all have to balance things. My own philosophy is my own family comes first, and you can't do it all. You've got to give yourself grace. You know, you can't be the best at everything. You can do certain things at certain times, and just kind of know what's important and just press on with those things. And
Right.
tell your kids you're not always going to be perfect, and let them know that. I mean, that's an important life lesson, that you can't be at every event, and but be at the ones you can, and just sort of hold true to your values of knowing that they know you want to be there, but you've got other things you've got to do.
And appreciating those moments when you do have it. You know, I think that's really important. I mean, we've all missed anniversaries, birthdays. You know, that just comes a little bit with being in the military. But just to enjoy those moments you do have together, you know, is very key, you know. From John, I know this audience is probably mostly women, but any advice for our male spouses? I'd like to support my sailor the best I can as a husband, but it seems I'm in the minority, and she comes from a military family, and it's all new to me.
I feel that pain, because I didn't come from a military family, and as I said already, I came into it kind of later than most, and you kind of feel like a fish out of water a little bit. I know it's hard being the only person of something in a room, or even in an organization. What I would say is that the other people that you're joining with, the women have been in your shoes, maybe not directly, but they've been in situations where they were the single person there. And so I think they understand your nervousness more than you would think. So they want you to be welcome, and they're just not really sure how to do it. And so it's a little awkward, but just know that we are so well, I am at least, I admire the men that are out there that are supporting the women sailors that are doing like amazing work, and they're alone. Usually they're in a male dominated environment, so we got it all going around. It's hard, but the men that I know that are doing it, and you're right, there aren't many, but let's hope there's more. You're doing amazing things. You're sacrificing maybe what you might want to be doing as your primary thing to support your spouse. And so, bravo. Yeah.
Agreed. Agreed.
Thank you
Yes,
for what you're doing.
yes, I agree with you, because all the male spouses I have been in touch with, they really make those spouse groups fun and exciting. They bring different, opinions, and just their experiences are so different, but they are amazing. In fact, the Navy Spouse of the Year this year is a male spouse, Dave Carrera, and he's in Okinawa, doing everything he can do to support his spouse and also finding employment on the side. It's not easy, but it's not the unicorn either. There's a growing group of male spouses, and so I know it's hard, but they're very valued in our community. Absolutely. Oh, got another great question here from Margaret. What are the unspoken expectations of leadership?
The one that comes to mind is that you have an elevated voice, that people care about what you say more than they would have if you weren't in a position of leadership. And so you just kind of have to be aware of that. It's a good and a bad thing. It's good that you can't be joking around as much as you might have in the past, but the other thing is maybe people might consider what you say a little bit more. So you just have to be aware that your voice is more elevated, I would say.
And is that difficult sometimes to know that the spotlight is on you? I would imagine that would be challenging at times. Everyone wants to know how you feel about some of these subjects.
It's fun. It's an honor.
Fantastic. Let's see. Let's talk about from Rachel. Actually, that might be a little bit difficult. Question from Jerry. How does working on an overseas assignment, okay, that one's not as good as I would want it to be. It's a little bit confusing. Is there a centralized resource or website that helps us find military spouse groups you mentioned earlier? Or if our spouse always seems to forget sharing that information? This is a question from Jen.
And I relate to that one. I wish there was. There's a multitude of resources out there. Well, we know them already, right? There's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's email, there's texting, there's what am I missing? I don't know. Twitter. Forgot about Twitter. Yes. So a lot of them out there.
Some of that.
I really wish there was a central place. The jackpot that I have found is on the Navy's, the U.S. Navy's website. There's something called an app locker, APP. No kidding. And you go on there, and with your phone, you can find the different apps that are out there that you can connect with. I would say for those who don't do a lot of different social media, including myself, you do have to realize that you can go on a lot of those without having accounts and stay informed. But I think the question that this person was asking was individually, how do you know about what's going on with the command and whatnot? I would say a couple of things. One is the spouse of the CO, make sure they know you're there and that they can include you in their communication. And then the other thing is the ombudsman. They're wonderful, and as long as they know you're there and you want information and you want to stay involved, those are the two ways I would say. And then of course there are different Facebook groups and things like that, but find the people that are the big communicators in your organization and just stay plugged in with them somehow, whether it's on email or some other app.
Absolutely. And I love that you mentioned the ombudsman program, because they are the lifeline really
Right.
to the command, and God bless them, because they are amazing. I don't know what we would do without them, but just getting plugged in and reaching out to those in the leadership position saying we are here And you know, how can I get involved? How can I get connected? Especially in locations that are kind of spread apart. I know here in Hampton Roads, you know, it's a large area. And so just trying to find, you know, by neighborhood sometimes seems to help, and how to get those connections going. And just kind of, you know, for me, I'm an introvert. So it's hard for me to like get out there and, you know, kind of push the bubble a little bit. So I think that, you know, when people first move, that's important, is to kind of step out of your bubble, really try to meet people through the command, you know, through whatever interest you have, and hope that that helps.
It's hard. I mean, even with Mike's position now, I sort of wish, don't they have my email? Why can't they write to me? They write to him, not they, the big they, but I mean, you know, when he gets an invitations or something, they send it just to his office sometimes. And I'm like, I exist. Why don't they send it to me? But it's hard. It's really hard. Believe it or not, that, you know, getting a spouse email list and keeping it up to date is hard to do. So the onus is on us a little bit to reach out and make sure the right people know you're there and you want information of a particular kind. So you have to kind of go out of your bubble and do that. Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah, you do have to make sometimes that first step, because it's hard, you know, trying to keep those lists going, and then the change of those lists all the time. Okay, this is an interesting question. Have either of you divided your household geographically in order to continue your separate career goals? And if so, what advice would you give?
We did that one time. We were separated. Mike was overseas and I was here, and it was good, but I can tell you the amount of stuff you accumulate with two houses is really challenging, especially when you bring it all back together into one house. It worked, and I had to rely on people to help me. There was a young lady at their school who I would get to come over in afternoons sometimes when I had meetings, and you have to rely on other people to help out and be willing to pay for that help when you can. It can be done, but it's hard, but it can be done. Yeah.
It can be done, because we geo-batched as well. When my husband was in Italy, we stayed back here for the children. Communication, I find you really have to up the game on communication, because, and especially if there's a time difference as well, just making sure that everyone is still able to relate your feelings with each other. And it's just, there's so many complications that come of it, but there are times where, you know, if that is the way to continue a career, you know, you make these sacrifices. And so I know that for us, it was a good decision. It may not be for everyone. But then again, there's always making lemonade out of lemons. We were able to go to Italy, see the Amalfi Coast, and do the fun things. So you always try to think the positives of seeing different places like that.
So I'm friends with another family in one of the other services, who this particular, it's the dad who's deployed and the mom is at home with two small children, and she does family play dates and daddy-daughter play dates, even online. And they think of these creative things, and it's amazing. It's more than just talking on the phone. I think now with today's software and technological advances, you can get really creative with being able to stay together when you're separated.
We've come a long way, haven't we? Because I remember the days where they had to go videotape, reading a book, and it was on, then you'd have to go into the base to watch the videotape. And now we have WhatsApp, we've got, you know, Zooms. It's just a different life now. It's so much easier, so much easier, which is a good thing. I think we have time maybe for one more question. So, okay, this is from Emily in Hawaii. Do you have a special message directed particularly to those serving in the ombudsman role during this challenging COVID time? They are facing some unforeseen circumstances that are pushing the envelope when it comes to the challenges that they're facing.
Well, ombudsman, I just want to say thank you to you and to all of your sister and brother network that are doing this completely volunteer work, and in this really time when everybody is so stressed out. I mean, I think it all does sort of bubble to you, and with the uncertainties on some of the deployments right now and the length of time that people are gone. I mean, some are going during COVID, some are gone before COVID, and it's really challenging. I mean, think to why you stepped up to do this to begin with, and just know that there's so many people who appreciate what you're doing more than you'll ever hear. Thank you for what you're doing. Make sure that you take the time to use some of those mental health check-in visits, and make sure that you are not keeping things bottled up as well. Because I'm sure there's a lot on your plate, and it's one of those positions where you can't even tell everybody what else is going on. So you have to be able to, you know, vent and sort of just check in with people. And I know there is an ombudsman sort of hierarchy that you can go in and speak to, you know, other people about some of these challenges. Just know that your work is very much of value and appreciated.
And on top of that, they're amazing because you have social media now. And then, so not only are they dealing with these issues, they're also trying to ensure that the information that's put out on social media, on their Facebook pages, are accurate. So I can imagine the impact of being so into social media affects your job and makes it even more challenging.
Magnified, yeah.
Yeah, magnified, because you have to now have people watching everything. And yeah, so it's a God bless, love our ombudsman. So
that's one of those jobs that can be really crafted in their resumes later on, right?
I totally agree. You can't pay them enough. Well, I think our time is almost up, and I know we could not get to all of these amazing questions, but hopefully we can have another conversation in the future. And I just want to thank you, Mrs. Gilday, for your time and your busy schedule as we kick off this Navy League webinar series for our Sea Services active duty spouses. And for our viewers today, this is just one benefit of joining the Navy League, and it's free. So I know I can speak for everyone here that we have set the bar high today with our guest. And so thank you again, Mrs. Gilday, for joining us, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I want to say we didn't get a chance to talk to the dual career military. We didn't get to talk about that, but maybe we can do that next time. But I wanted to end with just saying thank you so much to the spouses who have tuned in. And if somebody hasn't said it recently, thank you for your service. Believe it or not, your military member is serving, but you are too, in a very different way, but in a very supportive way. And if you haven't been told you're serving, you are. And the Navy wouldn't be where it is today without your support. So thank you for what you do. And thank you very much for your lovely conversation, Michelle. I've enjoyed it very much.
Me too. Thank you so much.
Mrs. Gilday, thank you. Your insights into being a Navy spouse, a professional, and a mother will help all of us in learning how to be a leader and to advocate in our own individual communities. Michelle, thank you. It has been and is always an honor to work with you. I welcome all of you who dialed in today to join us for our next Active Duty Spouse Series webinar on April 15th. These events are truly built with you in mind, so please complete the survey after this webinar so that we can create something for you, our active duty spouse. On behalf of the Navy League of the United States, I would like to now introduce you to our Executive Director and 13th Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, Mr. Mike Stevens.
All right, thank you, Julia, appreciate it. Linda and Michelle, that was pretty awesome. I mean, we've done a lot of webinars over the last 10 months, and that was, if not our best, certainly one of our best webinars. So thank you very much for that. And as a token of our appreciation, we wanted to make sure we'll get this in the mail to you, but these are nice Navy League notepads, under $20, I might add, but we'll still run them through the appropriate channels. And so I wanted to give my team a shout out and say thank you for putting this together, and for Linda and Michelle taking time out of both your busy schedules, because we know they're busy, for supporting our military spouses and supporting the Navy League of the United States. It's very much appreciated. Thank you so much. And we look forward to spending some time with you face to face in the near future. So we'll let you get back to your day, and I'll get back to work. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.